Okay, what is your name and occupation? And also, answer the questions like you're saying the questions in your answer. Like if I asked you what you had for breakfast, you would say, "What I had for breakfast was pancakes, eggs, etc." So,
My name is Brett Kramer, and my occupation is VP of Sales for Clear Object.
how did you first become interested in this line of work? And do you have any stories you could share for that time?
I first became interested in computers in general when I was really young. My dad was a teacher in high school, and he was one of the first teachers to bring computers into the local high school. And I was very interested in what a computer was at that time. And this is back in the 70s when computers were not on every desktop. And I became very interested in how they worked and how people programmed them to do things. And so I got very interested in computers throughout my schooling days. And when I went to college, went into computer engineering. And then that just led into the whole world of software development. And now what has become the Internet of Things that's driving this data economy that started.
Hey, what do you do in this line of work? Describe the tasks involved with the job.
Yeah, my job involves primarily sales for the organization. So really trying to take these customized solutions that we can develop for customers and bring them to life. We work with customers that have problems around gathering data. This can be anything from the way a cow walks in the field to the way a roof tile looks like on a home. We take industrial machines and gather data from them. There's sources of data all over the world. And with each of those sources of data, there's somebody somewhere that needs that data for a reason and has a way to make money by monetizing that data. And we work with those folks to create software applications that allow them to do that.
What do you love about this line of work?
What I love about this type of work is that it's always something new. Every project we get involved in, you look back and say, I can't believe we just did that project. They're just different almost every time, and they're really, in many ways, making an impact on the way people live their lives. And to me, that's exciting.
What do you hate about this line of work?
What I dislike most about this line of work is that it's tough at times. What we're doing for customers can be tough to explain, can be tough to get the funding that they need to make it happen. At one level, a lot of the problems we solve seem pretty easy to solve, but when you get into the technology and you have to find sensors and you have to understand networking and you have to be able to do all the data analytics on these problems, they become complex. And complexity, unfortunately, means more dollars. And so it is often difficult to get the funding that's needed to really work with these customers and make their problems into solutions.
Is there anything you would change about this line of work if you could?
The thing that I would try to change about this line of work is to be able to explain the level of experience that we have more easily. I think if folks understood the projects that we've worked on and the success we've had in this field, I think they would be more willing to trust us in the early phases of these projects. And that's often the hardest time, those first few steps in any given project effort. There's this period of time where trust is at issue. And if I could find a way to establish that trust sooner, I think the job and the potential route to the solution would be much easier.
Are there any interesting stories that you'd like to share from working here? Feel free to omit names.
Yeah, so in terms of interesting stories, one of my favorites is, I mentioned the cows earlier, which seems strange, but we're actually working on a project that's using video drones that are flying in fields that monitor cows. And based on the cow's gait, how it's walking, how it's standing, where it's at in the field, what it's doing during the day, there's actually computer software programs, machine learning modules that can understand illnesses in cows and can predict that, you know, this particular cow is not acting right, it may have an issue. And in the past with ranching, that was a very difficult thing to do. And the issue would be if the cow is sick, a lot of times when one cow gets sick, it's a matter of time before that illness is passed to other cows. And for these ranchers, that's their bread and butter. That's money. They can't have cows going down, and they certainly can't have one cow infecting other cows. So when we're flying drones over these fields, if we can pick out a particular cow and identify a potential illness, that allows them to focus those resources on that illness, to go find that one particular cow and do the tests that they need to do on that cow to determine if that illness is a reality. And if it is, we've identified it quicker and potentially stopped it from infecting other cows. To me, that's just a crazy thing to think that a computer could help with. If you would have told me that back in the 70s when I started working with computers, wouldn't have had any concept of that. But those are the types of things that are happening today all around us. And there's really no limit to what we can do at this point.
Do you have any advice for those who wish to go into this line of work?
My advice for folks interested in getting into the Internet of Things or really leveraging this new data economy is to ask questions and get involved in how these things are done. There's plenty of people out there these days that can talk about these big ideas, but there's very few people that can actually take those big ideas and make them work. Use the technology, use everything behind the technology to create solutions. That's just not that easy. And unfortunately, a lot of the folks coming out with college degrees don't have that type of an approach. They're coming out learning specific capabilities or specific study areas. You know, even in the computer science area, they're learning how to program, but they're not learning how to take that software development knowledge and apply it to real world problems as well. And so that's really where I would focus if I was, you know, at high school, college age. I would focus on these real world problems and how to apply the things that I'm learning in school to those real world problems. And it's not an easy thing. It's going to take internships and real life experience, but grab for those things as quickly as you can, because that's where you're really gonna grow in value.
Is there anything you'd like to leave us with as a final thought?
In terms of a final thought, it's really exciting out there. We're just barely touching the surface of what's going to be happening over the next 5 and 10 years. You consider the fact that all the major car manufacturers will have autonomous vehicles on the highway in their major production lines in the next 2 years. That's a big step. And then think about the other industries. That's just automobile. Think about everything else that you interact with on a daily basis and how data can be pulled from that interaction and how that data can be used. It's a really exciting time. There's so much in front of us in terms of what can happen in the world, and I just look forward to being a part of it as long as I can.
All right.